Hello, good morning, professor and classmates. Today I'm going to show you my presentation for the financial management midterm final term exam. Today I'm going to present to you the Russian multi-billionaire Roman Abramovich and his corporate takeover. First, I want to start with his early life. He was born in the Soviet Union and he grew up in different circumstances. He was orphaned at a very young age. His mother died when he was 1 year old, and his father died in an accident when he was 3. During the 80s and after the collapse of the USSR, he moved into business, starting with relatively modest commercial activities like trading and intermediaries, which set the stage for larger deals. The major shift came with privatization in Russia, the state assets being sold or transferred under favorable terms, enabling the first generation of oligarchs to accumulate large fortune. I'm gonna explain to you what oligarchs means in a little bit. First, we have to start by the beginning. He had an early entrepreneurship. He was entrepreneur since he was real little. During the 80s, still in the Soviet Union, he started small businesses like he sold plastic toys, started a rubber dog factory. He traded commercial goods. These were simply ventures, but they taught him how to navigate business and connections. When his parents passed away, he went to another family in Russia, so no one really taught him how to be an entrepreneur and how to use his money and do something else. So he had to learn that by himself. Then his rise to wealth in the 1990s, which was the wild 90s. After the fall of the Soviet Union, many huge state-owned companies were privatized. This period made a new class of ultra-rich businessmen. This was the Russian oligarchs. Abramovich became one of them. Now I'm going to continue with how he created his business rise and major corporate takeovers. The first business that he invested in was the oil. In the Sibneft was the name of the company. In 1995, Abramovich acquired a controlling interest in Sibneft through the loans for shares, which was a controversial program vehicle of privatization in Russia. The acquisition cost was modest compared to later valuations. By 2000, Sibneft was producing billions worth of oil. In 2005, he sold a large stake in Sibneft to the state entity Gazprom for approximately 13 billion US dollars. This deal significantly boosted his wealth and cemented his status among Russia's richest entrepreneurs. Then he participated in what was called the Aluminium Wars. Abramovich was involved in the Russia aluminum sector during a period known as the Aluminium Wars, which was a period marked by a violent conflict among competitors of the aluminum. He later helped merge companies into Rusal, now one of the world's biggest aluminum producers. By the early 2000s, he was one of Russia's richest men. One thing about Abramovich that I learned was that he really diversified his companies and his money. He put his money in very diverse places. One of the first ones was metal and steel. He later expanded into steel and mining. For example, he became a major shareholder in Evras plc, which was the steel making and mining. The company is UK incorporated but operates largely in Russia and other countries. His holding company, Millhouse Capital, which was created in 2001, managed numerous assets like stakes in oil, aluminum, banking, insurance, and real estate. As I told you, he was a really diversified man, so he then went into sports and a more public profile. In 2003, Abramovich acquired the English football club Chelsea FC. This purchase greatly raised his international profile. He bought Chelsea Football Club for around 140 million euros. He invested heavily in players and infrastructure, and he turned Chelsea into one of the most successful clubs in Europe. The team won 5 Premier League titles, 2 UEFA Champions League titles, multiple domestic cups. But then he sold the club in 2022 due to sanctions imposed during the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Under his ownership, Chelsea became a major force in European football, which also allowed Abramovich a more global visibility by this point. As I told you, he was a really diverse man, so then he surprisingly entered politics. He became the governor of Chukotka from 2001 to 2008. Chukotka is not a really known area, so for some reason he won the election for governor of the Chukotka region, which is a remote and extremely poor area in Russia's Far East. He invested hundreds of millions of his personal wealth to improve schools, housing, infrastructure, social services, and people there view him possibly because he transformed the region with his own money. He invested in the region. Now, he's a really interesting man, and I want to explore his corporate takeovers tactics and his environment. Abramovich's business success was enabled by the wider environment in post-Soviet Russia. The transition to privatization, state assets being sold at favorable or opaque terms, insider networks, and political connections. Those were really good terms to him to succeed. He had many deals, like Sebnev, the oil, were criticized for lack of transparency, for being rich auctions, or favoring insiders. His strategy on how he became a billionaire was to take control of undervalued assets like the oil and metals, rapidly increase the value of them, and then monetize via sale or listing. For example, he would buy cheap, then he will let it grow, and then he will sell it for a higher price. Then diversified into different sectors and geography, like real estate, sports, overseas investments, to spread risk and build a global footprint. I think he really didn't have a plan, so he diversified and it came out really good. So what he gave me in my conclusion is that you should take risk and not put your whole eggs in one basket. You have to diversify and check different markets. So I think he's a very interesting man. And that's it. Thank you for your attention.